Rain hit the windows of the Grand Hanul Hotel hard enough to blur the Seoul skyline into streaks of silver and gold. Inside the ballroom, nobody noticed, because all eyes were on Kim Yi-jun, the cameras, the shareholders, the politicians. The women carefully positioned near the stage in couture gowns, worth more than most people's yearly salaries. Everyone already knew what tonight was supposed to be. A public engagement announcement. Simple, predictable, strategic. Yi-jun stood near the center of the ballroom in an immaculate black suit, one hand in his pocket, expression unreadable as reporters shouted his name from behind the velvet barriers. Director Kim, is it true the Han family merger will be confirmed tonight? Are congratulations in order? Who will become the future face of Billionaire Group? He didn't answer. He rarely did. At 34, Kim Yi-jun had become the kind of man people talked about carefully. Too powerful to insult, too rich to ignore, too emotionally distant to understand. The Korean media called him the Ice Prince of Seoul. His board called him brilliant. His employees called him terrifying. And women treated him like something halfway between a fantasy and a competition. Tonight was supposed to end with him choosing one of them. At the far side of the ballroom, Sophia Addison almost laughed when she overheard two socialites whispering nearby. That one in silver already thinks she's marrying him. No, Chairman Han's daughter has been preparing for months. Sophia shook her head softly and returned her attention to the exhibition catalog in her hands. She didn't belong here. That feeling had followed her since the moment she landed in Seoul 3 weeks earlier. Everything about this city moved fast. Even elegance felt sharp here. She had only attended tonight because the Cultural Foundation funding her restoration project insisted on it. Smile for the donors, shake hands. Pretend not to notice people staring. Sophia was good at pretending. At 49, she'd had enough practice. She stood near one of the gallery walls wearing a deep wine-colored dress that hugged her gracefully without trying too hard. No excessive diamonds, no desperation, just quiet elegance. And somehow that made her stand out even more. Especially here. Especially among women 20 years younger. A server approached carefully. Madam Addison, would you like another glass of wine? She smiled politely. No, thank you. The young server bowed slightly and hurried away. Sophia exhaled slowly after he left. She could already feel the stares, not hostile exactly, curious. Some people looked impressed. Others looked confused. A few looked offended by her existence. An older black woman, standing calmly inside one of Korea's most elite events, apparently disturbed the natural order of things. She was used to it, still hated it. Across the ballroom, Yi-jun noticed her again. Not the dress, not her appearance. The stillness. Everyone else in the room wanted something. Attention, marriage, status, access. Sophia looked like she wanted to leave. That alone made her interesting. His assistant stepped closer quietly. Sir, Chairman Han is asking if you're ready for the announcement. Yi-jun didn't respond immediately. His eyes stayed on Sophia. She was flipping through the exhibit booklet, absent-mindedly now, completely detached from the performance happening around her. Not pretending to be impressed, not trying to get photographed, just existing, comfortably. That was rare. Sir, Yi-jun finally looked away. Later, the assistant blinked. The press is waiting. I know. The ballroom lights dimmed slightly as the host walked onto the stage. Conversations quieted immediately. Sophia looked up. Here we go, she thought. The host smiled brightly into the microphone. Tonight marks an important moment not only for Billionaire Group, but for the future of international cultural partnerships. Applause. Polite. Then the host continued. And now, Director Kim Yi-jun would like to say a few words. More applause. Camera shutters exploded instantly as Yi-jun stepped onto the stage. Tall, calm, cold. He looked like a man built specifically for headlines. Sophia expected another corporate speech. Instead, Yi-jun stood silently for several seconds, scanning the room. The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Then he spoke. My board believes tonight is about securing the future. A few people laughed softly. He didn't. They believe marriage is useful for business. The room shifted uneasily. Sophia frowned slightly. This wasn't the planned speech. Yi-jun's father, seated near the front, looked suddenly alert. Then Yi-jun continued. But I'm not interested in performing for investors anymore. The atmosphere changed instantly. Now nobody was breathing normally. Reporters lifted cameras higher. One of the heiresses near the stage forced an awkward smile. Yi-jun stepped down from the platform and started walking through the ballroom. People parted automatically. Sophia looked confused as he moved closer. No, surely not. His pace never changed. Neither did his expression, until he stopped directly in front of her. The entire room froze. Sophia stared at him. Up close, he looked even more intimidating. Sharp jawline. Dark eyes impossible to read. The kind of composure that made everyone around him nervous. Director Kim, she said carefully. Hundreds of cameras turned toward them at once. Yi-jun looked at her quietly for a moment, then he held out his hand. Not dramatically, not like a fairy tale. Just simple. Certain, and he said, age doesn't matter to me. A ripple moved through the ballroom. Actual shock. Not polite surprise, shock. Yi-jun's gaze never left Sophia's face. Character does. Somebody dropped a champagne glass. The sound shattered across the silence. Sophia felt every camera in the room swing toward her like weapons. Her stomach tightened instantly. This wasn't admiration. This was spectacle, and she hated being turned into one. What are you doing? She whispered under her breath. Yi-jun answered just as quietly, giving them something honest for once. The reporters completely lost control. Questions exploded everywhere. Director Kim, are you confirming a relationship? Who is she? Is this political? Director Kim? Sophia's pulse pounded painfully now. People were staring openly, some horrified, some fascinated, some disgusted. She saw one young woman near the stage mutter something cruel to her friend while looking directly at Sophia's face. Sophia slowly lowered her eyes, and for one brief second, she almost stepped away, because she knew this feeling. Being judged publicly, being dissected, reduced into headlines instead of humanity. Her ex-husband had spent years doing exactly that in political circles back in Washington. Smile here, Sophia. Stand there, Sophia. Don't speak too much. You're elegant when you're quiet. The memory made her chest ache unexpectedly. Then Yi-jun noticed her hesitation, and something in his expression shifted. Not pity, something softer, protective almost. Very gently, he said, you can walk away if you want. The room leaned in closer somehow, but I'd rather you didn't. Sophia looked at him carefully then, really looked. And underneath all that coldness, the man looked tired, not physically, soul-tired. Like someone who'd spent too many years pretending not to feel things. Which made what he was doing tonight even more dangerous. Director Kim, one reporter shouted, are you saying this woman is your partner? Yi-jun finally looked toward the cameras. Yes. The ballroom erupted. His father stood abruptly from his seat. Yi-jun, warning, sharp, public. But Yi-jun ignored him completely. Sophia could already imagine the headlines forming in real time. Older black woman captures billionaire CEO. Myra Hair rejects Seoul elites. Scandal inside Korea's most powerful family. She should leave, immediately. Instead, she heard herself ask quietly, why me? For the first time that night, Yi-jun's mask cracked slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But Sophia did, and his answer came low enough that only she could hear it. Because you're the first woman in years who looked at me like I was human. Then across the ballroom, his father's face turned pale. Sophia didn't sleep that night. By morning, her face was everywhere. On television screens inside subway stations. On trending news sites. On social media clips replaying the exact moment, Kim Yi-jun walked through that ballroom and stopped in front of her. Some headlines sounded fascinated. Others sounded cruel. A few didn't even try to hide the racism. Sophia stared at one article on her hotel tablet before locking the screen with a tired sigh. International scandal. Korea's most eligible billionaire chooses older foreign woman. Chooses. Like she was an object. Like she had agreed to any of this. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. She ignored it. Then another. Then another. Some reporters had somehow gotten access to the hotel information. Outside her suite window, Seoul looked gray and rainy again. Sophia wrapped her robe tighter around herself and walked toward the coffee machine slowly. She looked exhausted. Not weak, just emotionally worn thin. This was exactly the kind of attention she had spent years avoiding after her divorce. Her ex-husband used to love public image. Every dinner became strategy. Every appearance became calculation. Sophia remembered sitting beside him once at a fundraiser while he smiled for cameras after cheating on her for nearly a year. And somehow she had still smiled too. That memory made her stomach twist. A knock interrupted her thoughts. 3 calm knocks, not hotel staff, too confident. Sophia opened the door halfway. Kim Yi-jun stood outside her suite holding 2 coffee cups. Of course he did. She stared at him for a long second. You found my room. You're staying in a hotel my company owns. That's not comforting. A faint flicker almost reached his mouth. Almost. Sophia looked at the cups suspiciously. You publicly destroyed my peaceful existence, and now you think caffeine fixes it. I didn't say it fixes it. That answer irritated her more because it sounded honest. She stepped aside eventually. 5 minutes. Yi-jun entered quietly. Even in simple black clothes, he still carried that same controlled presence. Like he belonged in every room automatically. Sophia hated how calm he looked. Meanwhile, her entire life had exploded overnight. He handed her the coffee. No sugar, he said. She paused. How did you know that? You never touched the desserts at the gala. Sophia looked at him differently then. That tiny detail unsettled her more than the public confession, because it meant he paid attention. Yi-jun stood near the window while she sat on the edge of the couch. Neither spoke for a moment. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. You embarrassed a lot of powerful people last night. I know, you embarrassed me too. That landed. He looked at her directly now. That wasn't my intention, but it happened. He nodded once. No excuses. No defensive speech. Oddly, that made it harder for her to stay angry. Sophia took a slow sip of coffee, then asked quietly, was any of it real? Yi-jun didn't answer immediately. Outside, rain slid slowly down the glass behind him. Yes, he said eventually. Which part? The part where I chose you. Sophia laughed softly under her breath. Not because it was funny. Because the entire situation felt insane. You don't even know me. I know enough. No, she said firmly. You know what people see. And what do people see? A woman almost 50 standing beside a billionaire, over 10 years younger than her, while the internet calls her desperate. Yi-jun's jaw tightened slightly. They're wrong. You don't know that. I do. Something about the certainty in his voice made the room quieter. Sophia looked away first. Dangerous, she thought. Not him exactly, the feeling. The way he spoke like he'd already decided something internally. That kind of intensity changed people's lives. Her phone buzzed again on the table between them. This time she looked. Her expression shifted instantly. Yi-jun noticed. What happened? Sophia swallowed slowly. My museum project in Chicago. What about it? The funding was withdrawn. Yi-jun watched her carefully as she reread the email. 20 years of work. Gone in 4 sentences. We regret to inform you. Sophia closed her eyes briefly. Of course. Her ex-husband still had connections on the board. This was punishment. Embarrass powerful men publicly, and suddenly doors close quietly behind you. Yi-jun spoke carefully. Was the project important to you? Sophia laughed once, a tired sound. It was my life. That answer stayed in the room longer than expected. Yi-jun glanced toward the rain outside again before speaking. Then don't let them take it. Sophia looked up. That's easy for billionaires to say. I'm serious. You can't fix everything with money. I know. For the first time since entering the room, he sounded genuinely exhausted. Not cold, just worn down. Sophia studied him quietly. You really hate this world, don't you? His eyes met hers again. I hate what it turns people into. That answer felt too honest, too immediate. Before Sophia could respond, another knock interrupted them. This one sharper. Yi-jun's assistant entered after a brief bow. Sir, the board meeting has been moved forward. Chairman Kim is demanding your presence immediately. The assistant hesitated slightly after noticing Sophia, then added carefully, there are also protesters outside the building. Sophia frowned. Protesters? The assistant looked uncomfortable. Mostly online activist groups and reporters. Yi-jun looked irritated already. What are they protesting? The assistant hesitated again. Then quietly, the relationship. Sophia stared in disbelief. It's been less than 12 hours. News travels quickly here, the assistant said softly. You don't need to worry about them. Sophia stood immediately. Easy for you to say. They're not screaming your age online. His expression darkened slightly. And they shouldn't be screaming at all. But they are. For a second, neither moved. Then Yi-jun walked closer slowly. Not intimidating. Measured. Come with me tonight. Sophia blinked. To a board meeting. To dinner afterward. She looked genuinely confused now. You think dinner is the solution to public outrage? No, he said calmly. I think hiding would make it worse. Sophia crossed her arms. You're very comfortable making decisions for other people. Something flickered in his eyes at that. Old irritation maybe. Or recognition. You can say no. She opened her mouth immediately, then stopped. Because part of her understood exactly what he meant. People like the board members, the media, the elites watching this unfold. They expected her to disappear quietly, to become embarrassed, to retreat. Sophia had spent too many years shrinking herself already. She exhaled slowly. One dinner. Yi-jun nodded once. One dinner. That evening, the restaurant overlooking the Han River fell silent the moment they entered together. Not fully silent, but enough. Heads turned instantly. Phones lifted discreetly. Sophia felt it immediately, that uncomfortable awareness of being watched before anyone even says anything. Yi-jun noticed too. Unlike her, he looked completely unaffected. The hostess bowed nervously. This way, Director Kim. As they walked through the restaurant, Sophia heard whispers nearby. She's older than I expected. Why would he choose her? Maybe it's temporary. Sophia kept her expression calm. Years of experience taught her how to survive humiliation gracefully. Still hurt, though. Always hurt. Once seated privately near the windows, Yi-jun loosened his tie slightly. You don't have to pretend it doesn't bother you. Sophia looked out at the river lights. What would you prefer? A dramatic scene? No. Good. Because I'm too tired for one. The waiter poured wine quietly before escaping the tension as fast as possible. Sophia stared at the city outside. Solette looked beautiful from a distance, cold too. You know what the strange part is? She said eventually. Yi-jun waited. I don't think they hate me because of you. He stayed quiet. They hate me because I remind them women like me are still visible. That landed harder than she intended. Sophia gave a faint smile without humor. Middle-aged women are supposed to disappear quietly, especially after divorce. Yijun looked at her carefully. You haven't disappeared. No, she said softly. But people keep acting disappointed about it. For the first time all evening, Yijun's expression genuinely changed. Anger, small but real, gnawed at her at the idea of it. Then suddenly, his phone buzzed sharply on the table. He checked the screen, and his entire face hardened instantly. Sophia noticed. What is it? Yijun stood immediately. We need to leave. Why? He turned the screen toward her. A photo filled the display. Someone had taken a picture of Sophia entering her hotel room earlier that morning. With the headline, Korean billionaire spends the night with older foreign woman. Sophia's face drained of color. Then Yijun said quietly, This is exactly why I need you to trust me. And somewhere across Seoul, someone was already watching them through a camera lens. The black SUV moved smoothly through the Seoul traffic, while camera flashes chased them down the street like lightning. Sophia sat quietly beside Kim Yijun, staring out the tinted window. Neither of them had touched the untouched food from dinner. The article had ruined everything. No, not ruined. Exposed something uglier. The comments underneath the photo had been worse than the headline itself. She'd seen enough before Yijun took the phone away. Old enough to be his mother. She trapped him. Foreign women always come for money. Sophia leaned her head lightly against the seat and closed her eyes. It shouldn't hurt this much. At her age, she thought she'd become immune to public cruelty. Apparently not. You shouldn't read the comments. Yijun's voice was calm beside her. Sophia let out a quiet breath. That's easy advice from someone who's been worshipped by the internet for 10 years. He looked at her. You think they worship me? Aren't they supposed to? They fear me, he said simply. That answer made her open her eyes. The city lights slid across his face briefly as the SUV passed another intersection. For a moment, he didn't look powerful, just lonely. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it. Then again. Ignored. Sophia frowned slightly. Shouldn't you answer that? No. You don't even know who it is. I do. Something about his tone ended the conversation there. A few minutes later, the SUV entered a private underground parking garage beneath one of Miri Group's residential towers. Sophia looked confused immediately. This isn't my hotel. No. The driver stepped out first while Yijun opened his own door. Sophia didn't move. You brought me to your apartment? It's safer. For who? For you. She stared at him carefully. You say things like they're obvious. Because they are. Sophia almost argued again, but stopped when she noticed security personnel already stationed near the elevator doors. Too many. That wasn't normal. A strange unease settled into her chest. Inside the penthouse, the silence felt expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline. But the place itself felt almost empty. No warmth, no personality, just sharp architecture and perfection. Sophia stepped farther inside slowly. This doesn't look lived in. It isn't, she looked around again. No family photos, no clutter, no evidence of comfort. You spend all your time working, don't you? Yes. That's depressing. A faint breath of amusement escaped him before disappearing again. It was the closest thing to a laugh she'd heard yet. Sophia noticed. Interesting. Yijun walked toward the kitchen. You can take the guest room. I'm not staying long. You shouldn't go back to the hotel tonight. You think paparazzi are camping outside. I know they are. Sophia rubbed her forehead tiredly. The exhaustion was finally catching up now. Not physical exhaustion. Emotional. The kind that settles behind your eyes after too much pressure for too many days. Yijun returned with a glass of water and handed it to her quietly. Their fingers brushed briefly. Small moment. Still noticeable. Sophia looked away first. Dangerous again. That feeling. She took the water carefully. Thank you. He nodded once. Then his expression shifted slightly as he noticed something on the bookshelf behind her. What? Yijun walked past her and pulled out a thin black folder. Sophia frowned. What is that? He opened it slowly. Inside were several old photographs and museum acquisition files. Sophia stepped closer automatically. The moment she saw the first photograph, her entire body stilled. No, that couldn't be right. She took the photo from his hands. An older Korean woman stood smiling beside a tall black man wearing glasses. Sophia's heartbeat slowed strangely, because she recognized him immediately. Professor Raymond Benson. Yijun looked at her carefully. You know him. Sophia barely heard the question. Raymond Benson, her mentor, the man who practically raised her academically after her own father died. The man who disappeared 20 years ago during an international investigation involving stolen African artifacts. Her hands tightened slightly around the photo. Where did you get this? It belonged to my mother. Sophia looked up instantly. Your mother knew him? Yijun nodded slowly. She worked with international preservation groups before she died. Sophia stared at the photograph again. Her mind was already moving too fast now. Connections, dates, questions. None of this made sense. Professor Benson vanished in Morocco during an investigation into private collectors and illegal auction networks. Why would he be connected to Yi-jun's mother? And why did Yi-jun have these files hidden in his apartment? Sophia flipped through the folder faster now. Shipping records, auction documents, artifact inventories. Then she froze again. One company name appeared repeatedly, Myray Global Logistics. Yi-jun noticed her expression immediately. What is it? Sophia looked at him carefully. You really don't know. His eyes narrowed slightly. Know what? She hesitated. Part of her wanted to stay quiet. But another part, the part shaped by years of research and truth-seeking, couldn't ignore this. These files, she said slowly. They're connected to artifact trafficking investigations from the early 2000s. Silence. Heavy. Yi-jun's face remained unreadable. My mother investigated trafficking networks before her death, he said quietly. Sophia looked at him sharply. Death? The pause that followed felt strange, controlled. Finally he answered. Officially it was suicide. Officially, Sophia caught that word immediately. She looked back down at the files. Something cold moved slowly through her stomach now. No wonder the atmosphere around this family felt tense. No wonder Yi-jun's father reacted the way he did at the gala. There were things buried inside this empire. Ugly things. Sophia closed the folder carefully. You should show these to the authorities. Yi-jun looked almost amused by that. You think powerful families work that way here? That's not an answer. No, he said calmly. It isn't. The silence stretched again. Then suddenly his phone rang. This time he answered. Yes. His expression darkened almost immediately. Who authorized that? Sophia watched him carefully while he listened. Then his jaw tightened. I said no press statements. A pause. Then colder. If my father wants damage control, he can do it without insulting her. Sophia looked up slowly. Her. After another tense silence, Yi-jun ended the call. What happened? He looked irritated now. The board released a statement. Sophia already knew this wouldn't be good. What kind of statement? Yi-jun held out the phone silently. Sophia read the article quickly. Mirai Group clarifies Director Kim's relationship rumors. The statement described Sophia as a temporary foreign consultant misunderstood by the media. Her expression hardened instantly. Temporary. Misunderstood. Like she was embarrassing clutter to clean up quietly. Sophia handed the phone back slowly. I see. Yi-jun watched her face carefully. That statement didn't come from me. But it came from your family. No denial there. She stepped away toward the windows. Below them, Seoul glittered beautifully under the rain. But suddenly the city didn't feel beautiful anymore. Just cold. You know what's strange, she said quietly. Yi-jun stayed silent. I spent years believing humiliation gets easier with age. She folded her arms tightly. It doesn't. You just become better at hiding it. Something in his expression shifted again. Guilt, maybe. Or anger on her behalf. Sophia turned back toward him slowly. I think I should leave Korea. No. The answer came too fast. Too sharp. Sophia blinked slightly. You don't get to decide that. You're not safe. There it is again. What? That tone. She looked directly at him now. Like the entire world belongs to you. For the first time since she met him, Yi-jun actually looked frustrated. Not cold. Human. I'm trying to protect you. I didn't ask for protection. You need it anyway. The words hit harder than he intended. Sophia's eyes narrowed slightly. I survived a public divorce. Political scandals, racism, career sabotage. Do not speak to me like I'm fragile. Yi-jun went quiet immediately. Because she was right. Sophia exhaled slowly afterward, already tired of arguing. Then her phone buzzed softly inside her purse. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. But something made her answer. Hello? Silence. Then a distorted voice spoke quietly. You need to leave Korea. Sophia's face changed instantly. Yi-jun noticed. The voice continued. You're asking questions connected to dangerous people. Sophia's grip tightened around the phone. Who is this? A pause. Then your mentor died because he wouldn't stop digging. Sophia's blood ran cold. The voice lowered further. If you stay near the Kim family. Another pause. You'll disappear too. The line disconnected. Silence crashed into the room. Yi-jun stepped toward her immediately. What happened? Sophia lowered the phone slowly. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, she looked genuinely afraid. And somewhere inside Mirai Group headquarters, a woman in an elegant cream suit quietly deleted surveillance footage from the gala night while watching Sophia Addison's photograph on her screen. Sophia didn't say another word after the phone call. She just stood there near the windows, staring out at the city while rain crawled slowly down the glass. Yi-jun watched her carefully from across the room. The fear on her face unsettled him more than he expected. Sophia Addison wasn't the kind of woman who frightened easily. Even during the media attacks, she'd remained composed. Angry sometimes. Wounded, but controlled. This was different. Tell me exactly what they said. His voice came calm. Sophia finally looked at him. They mentioned my mentor. Yi Jun's expression hardened instantly. What about him? They said he died because he kept digging. Silence. Not empty silence. The dangerous kind. Yi Jun walked toward her slowly. My mother used to receive calls like that before she died. Sophia frowned slightly. You never said you believed she was murdered. I never said I believed she killed herself either. That landed heavily between them. Yi Jun loosened his tie roughly now, frustration beginning to crack through his usual control. For 20 years, he said quietly, everyone in my family treated her death like an inconvenience. Sophia stayed still. She started investigating company transactions before she died, shipping routes, private auctions, missing inventory records. His jaw tightened. Then suddenly she was gone. The penthouse felt colder now. Sophia looked down at the folder, again sitting on the table. All those documents, all those hidden connections. And suddenly, the entire situation felt larger than scandal or romance. This was something darker. Something buried. Yi Jun looked at her directly. You need security. No, that wasn't a request. There you go again. He exhaled sharply through his nose. You think I'm controlling? I think you're used to obedience. For a second, neither moved. Then unexpectedly, Yi Jun gave a faint, humorless smile. You're probably right. That surprised her. Most powerful men she'd known spent their lives avoiding self-awareness. Her ex-husband especially. But Yi Jun, he noticed things, even ugly truths about himself. That made him harder to dismiss. Sophia sat slowly on the edge of the couch, exhaustion finally dragging at her shoulders. I should stayed in Chicago. No, Yi Jun said quietly. You don't know that. I do. Again with that certainty. Sophia rubbed her forehead tiredly. You barely know me. I know enough. That's not possible. Yi Jun looked at her for a long moment before answering. I know you stayed calm while people humiliated you publicly. Sophia looked away. I know you didn't ask me for money. Silence. I know you're more worried about your museum project than your reputation. His voice softened slightly. And I know you haven't looked at me like I'm a weapon since the day we met. Something uncomfortable moved through her chest. Not fear, something worse. Recognition. Sophia swallowed slowly. You keep saying things like that. Like what? Like you've been lonely for a very long time. Yi Jun didn't answer. And that silence answered enough. Hours later, Sophia couldn't sleep. The guest room felt too unfamiliar. Too quiet. She finally gave up around 1 a.m. and walked barefoot toward the kitchen for water. The penthouse lights were dim, except for the office near the hallway. She noticed Yi Jun sitting inside alone. Still awake, of course. His sleeves were rolled slightly now, tie gone completely, dark hair falling messier across his forehead, while he stared at financial reports on multiple screens. But he wasn't reading them. He looked lost in thought. Sophia hesitated before knocking lightly against the glass wall. Yi Jun looked up immediately. For the first time since she met him, he looked genuinely tired. Not billionaire tired. Human tired. You should sleep, he said quietly. So should you. He leaned back slightly in his chair. I'm working. At 1 in the morning? Yes, that's not healthy. A faint shadow of amusement crossed his face again. You sound disappointed. I am disappointed. She stepped into the office slowly. You're one of the richest men in Korea, and somehow your entire personality is stress. That almost made him laugh. Almost. Sophia noticed the old photograph sitting beside his laptop now, the one with his mother and her mentor. You miss her, Sophia said softly. Yi Jun looked at the photo, then nodded once. She was the only person in my family who cared whether I was happy. Something about the honesty in his voice hurt unexpectedly. Sophia sat across from him quietly. When did she die? I was 14. Too young. Way too young. She used to collect books, he continued after a moment. History, art, poetry. A small pause. My father hated it. Sophia frowned slightly. Hated books? He hated anything that distracted from business. The bitterness underneath that sentence felt old. Deeply old. Yi Jun stared down at the photograph again. She used to tell me powerful men become dangerous when they stop seeing people as human beings. Sophia listened quietly. She said wealth makes isolation look respectable. That line lingered, because somehow it explained him perfectly. The room fell quiet again. Not awkward, just heavy. Then Sophia noticed something else on his desk. A sealed envelope, yellowed with age. Handwritten Korean characters across the front. Yi Jun saw her looking at it. My mother wrote that before she died. Sophia's eyes lifted slowly. You never opened it? No. Why not? His answer came almost too quietly. I was afraid she blamed me. Sophia stared at him. And suddenly, the intimidating billionaire CEO disappeared for a second. What remained was a boy who lost his mother young and never recovered properly. Without thinking, Sophia reached across the desk and placed her hand gently over his. Small gesture. Soft. But Yi Jun went completely still. Not because of attraction. Because people probably didn't touch him kindly very often. Sophia realized it immediately afterward and started pulling away, but Yi Jun's fingers closed around hers lightly. Not controlling, careful, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Their eyes met. And for one dangerous second, everything else faded. The scandals, the age difference, the media, the pressure. Just silence, breathing, closeness. Then suddenly, Yi Jun's phone rang violently across the desk. The moment shattered instantly. He let go of her hand immediately and answered. Yes. His expression darkened within seconds. What happened? Sophia watched the color drain slightly from his face. Then colder. Who leaked that information? A long silence followed. Finally, Yi Jun stood abruptly. I'm coming now, he ended the call sharply. Sophia rose too. What happened? Yi Jun grabbed his jacket. The prosecution raided one of our shipping subsidiaries tonight. Sophia felt her stomach tighten. The trafficking investigation? I don't know yet. But his face said otherwise. Before she could respond, another voice interrupted from the doorway. A woman, elegant, calm, beautiful in a severe kind of way. She stood near the entrance wearing a cream-colored suit and diamond earrings that reflected softly under the hallway lights. Yi Jun's expression hardened immediately. Auntie, the woman smiled politely, but there was something cold underneath it. Still awake, her eyes moved toward Sophia slowly. Assessing, calculating. Not friendly. Sophia felt it instantly. The woman stepped closer gracefully. So, she said softly, you're the woman causing all this chaos. Yi Jun's tone sharpened. Why are you here? His aunt ignored him completely. Instead, she looked directly at Sophia. You should go home, Miss Addison. Sophia held her gaze calmly. I plan to eventually. No, the woman said softly. I mean America. The room went very still. Then she smiled again. Elegant, chilling. Some families survive because outsiders learn when to stop asking questions. Sophia's chest tightened instantly. Yi Jun stepped forward immediately. That's enough. But his aunt merely adjusted one of her gloves slowly before turning toward the door. Right before leaving, she paused. Then said without looking back, your mother refused to stay quiet too, and walked away. The silence afterward felt suffocating. Sophia looked toward Yi Jun slowly. His face had gone completely cold now. Not emotionally distant, furious. Then finally, he said the one thing she never expected to hear from him. She knows something. The rain started again just before dawn. Seoul looked almost ghostly through the penthouse windows. Buried beneath fog and pale gray light, Sophia hadn't slept. Neither had Yi Jun. After his aunt left, the atmosphere inside the apartment changed completely. No more pretending this was only about scandal or gossip. Something dangerous sat underneath the surface now. And both of them knew it. Sophia stood near the kitchen island holding a cup of untouched tea while Yi Jun searched through old company files on his tablet. The tension between them felt strange now, closer, but heavier. Finally, Sophia spoke. Your aunt threatened me. Yi Jun looked up immediately. She warned you. She practically told me your mother was killed. His jaw tightened. For a second, genuine anger flashed across his face, not the controlled irritation she was used to seeing. This looked personal. She was always around after my mother died, he said quietly. Too involved. Too helpful. Sophia leaned against the counter slowly. And your father? Yi Jun looked exhausted suddenly. My father ignores ugly things if they protect the company. That answer told her everything. The silence stretched again before Sophia spoke carefully. I think your mother and my mentor discovered the same operation. Yi Jun nodded once. The shipping routes, the stolen artifacts, the fake auctions, and whoever profited from all of it. Sophia lowered her eyes. Professor Benson disappeared after he refused to close the investigation. Yi Jun stared at one document on the screen too long, then finally said, My mother died 3 months later. Cold moved slowly through Sophia's chest. 2 people trying to expose something. Both gone. The pattern was impossible to ignore now. Then suddenly, Yi Jun's tablet buzzed with an incoming message. He opened it and went completely still. Sophia noticed immediately. What is it? He turned the screen toward her silently. It was a photograph. Taken years ago. His mother standing beside Professor Benson outside a private museum event in Paris. On the back of the photo, handwritten in English. If anything happens to us, trust Sophia Addison. Sophia's breath caught instantly. No, that wasn't possible. Yi Jun looked at her carefully. This is why I recognized your name. The room went silent. Sophia stared at him. What? At the gala? His voice remained calm, but something emotional sat underneath it now. When they introduced you to the foundation board, I knew your name immediately. Sophia's chest tightened. You already knew who I was. Yes, and you still walked across that ballroom and did all of this? Yi Jun held her gaze. Yes, Sophia stepped back slowly. Something cracked inside her expression then. Not anger first, hurt. You used me. No, you approached me because of your mother. That's not the same thing. But it started because of her. Yi Jun stood immediately. Sophia, you should told me. I was trying to protect you. There it is again, she snapped suddenly. The emotion surprised both of them. You keep deciding what I deserve to know. Yijun's own frustration finally surfaced. Because people connected to me keep dying. The room fell completely silent after that. Sophia stared at him, and suddenly she saw it clearly. The fear underneath him, not fear for himself, for her. That almost made it worse. Sophia shook her head slowly. You don't trust people, she said quietly. Yijun looked away. No, he admitted. The honesty hurt more than denial. Sophia grabbed her coat from the chair nearby. Yijun immediately stepped forward. What are you doing? I need space. You can't leave right now. Watch me. Sophia, no. Her voice cracked softly for the first time. Not dramatic, just tired, deeply tired. I spent years married to a man who controlled information to protect his image. I will not do this again. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Yijun opened his mouth, then stopped, because he didn't fully know anymore. Sophia looked at him for a long moment, and quietly said, I think somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing where the investigation ended and where I began. That landed directly, because it was true, and both of them knew it. Sophia left the penthouse 10 minutes later. Yijun watched from the windows as her taxi disappeared into the rain-soaked streets below. Then, for the first time in years, Kim Yijun lost control emotionally. He slammed his hand against the desk, hard enough to send files crashing to the floor. Not because she walked away, because she looked disappointed in him. That hurt more than anger ever could. Meanwhile, Sophia sat silently in the back seat of the taxi while rain blurred the city outside. Her chest ached, and she hated that it did. Because despite everything, some part of her understood him. That was the dangerous part. Her phone buzzed softly. Unknown number again. Sophia ignored it. Then another message arrived. This one with no text. Only a photograph. Sophia frowned slightly before opening it. The moment she saw the image, her blood ran cold. It was a recent picture of her entering Yijun's penthouse building, taken from far away. Someone was watching her constantly. Then another message arrived immediately underneath. You should have left Korea. Sophia's breathing slowed. The taxi driver glanced nervously into the rearview mirror. Madam, are you all right? Before she could answer, headlights suddenly appeared too fast behind them. Bright. Violent. The black SUV slammed directly into the side of the taxi. Metal screamed. Glass exploded everywhere. Sophia barely had time to react before the world flipped sideways violently. Then darkness. Complete darkness. Back at Mirai headquarters, Yijun stood inside the boardroom while executives argued loudly around him. Stock prices were collapsing. News about the investigation had already leaked. His father looked furious. This entire disaster started the moment you brought that woman into our lives. Yijun's eyes turned cold instantly. Do not talk about her that way. Open your eyes, his father shouted. You embarrassed this family for a stranger. A stranger. Yijun laughed once under his breath. No warmth in it. She showed me more honesty in 2 weeks than this family has shown me in 20 years. The room went silent. Then suddenly the boardroom doors burst open. His assistant rushed inside, pale-faced. Sir, Yijun immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? The assistant struggled to breathe properly. There's been an accident. Everything inside Yijun stopped. 20 minutes later, he arrived at the hospital looking nothing like the composed billionaire from the headlines. His hair was disheveled, tie gone, rain soaking through his coat. Doctors and nurses immediately bowed as he moved through the emergency corridor. He barely noticed them. Where is she? This way, sir. The hospital hallway lights felt too bright, too cold. Yijun's chest tightened harder with every step. Not again. Please not again. When he finally saw Sophia through the emergency room glass, something inside him broke quietly. Her forehead was bandaged, one arm bruised, connected to monitors, still unconscious. Yijun stopped walking completely. For several seconds, he couldn't move. Couldn't breathe properly. The doctor spoke nearby, but the words barely registered. Minor concussion, fortunate survival, impact from the passenger side, fortunate survival, meaning she almost died. Yijun walked into the room slowly, then sat beside her bed. Very carefully, he took her hand. His composure finally shattered there. Not loudly. That wasn't who he was. But tears gathered silently in his eyes anyway. Because suddenly, he understood something terrifying. The thought of losing Sophia hurt more than losing the company, more than reputation, more than power. And that realization destroyed him. Yijun lowered his head slightly beside her hand, then whispered the truth he'd been avoiding for weeks. I love you. His voice broke softly. The monitors continued their steady rhythm in the silence. Outside the hospital room, reporters were already gathering. News alerts exploded across Korea. Billionaire CCO's secret companion in critical condition after mysterious crash. But inside that room, none of it mattered anymore. Because for the first time in his life, Kim Yijun finally understood what it meant to be afraid of losing someone. Sophia woke up to the sound of rain against glass. Soft, steady. For a few seconds, she didn't know where she was. Then the pain in her shoulder returned. The hospital, the crash. Her eyes opened slowly. Everything looked pale under the early morning light. And there, sitting beside her bed in the same clothes from the night before, was Kim Yi-jun. His head rested against one hand, eyes closed, exhaustion finally catching up to him. Sophia stared quietly, without the cold expression, without the perfectly controlled posture. He looked younger, not softer exactly, just human. Then Yi-jun opened his eyes immediately, like some part of him had been listening for her breathing all night. The moment he realized she was awake, relief crossed his face so quickly it almost hurt to watch. Sophia, his voice sounded rough, like he hadn't spoken in hours. She tried to sit up slightly. Yi-jun stood instantly. Don't, I'm fine. No, you're not. That familiar controlling tone was back, but weaker now. Frayed at the edges by fear, Sophia looked at him quietly. You cried, he froze, only for a second, but she saw it. The redness in his eyes, the sleeplessness, the emotional exhaustion. Yi-jun looked away first. You almost died. The room fell silent. Sophia lowered her eyes slowly. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't really a question. Yi-jun's expression hardened immediately. No. Your aunt? I don't know yet. But they both knew. Sophia leaned back carefully against the pillows. Outside the hospital room, reporters crowded behind barriers while security tried to control the chaos. The entire country was obsessed now. Not just with the scandal, with them. The older black woman, the billionaire heir, the crash, the investigation. It had become bigger than gossip. It was everywhere. Sophia looked toward the television, mounted silently in the corner of the room. Her face flashed across the screen again beside Yi-jun's. She let out a tired breath. My life was very quiet before Seoul. Yi-jun almost smiled. I know. No, she said softly. You really don't. That silence returned again. Heavy, emotional. Then finally, Yi-jun reached into his suit pocket slowly and placed the unopened letter from his mother onto the bed beside her. Sophia frowned slightly. You opened it? No. Then why bring it to me? His voice lowered. Because I think she trusted you more than she trusted this family. Sophia looked at the envelope carefully. The paper looked fragile with age now. For a moment, neither moved. Then slowly, Sophia opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, short, shaking slightly from weak hands. Yi-jun watched Sophia's expression change while she read silently. Then finally she whispered, Oh my God, what? Sophia looked up at him slowly. Your mother knew. Yi-jun's chest tightened. Knew what? She knew someone inside the family was responsible. Sophia's fingers tightened around the paper slightly. She wrote that if anything happened to her, the evidence was hidden inside the restoration archives. Yi-jun stared at her, then immediately understood. The museum project. Sophia nodded once. All those old artifacts. The international preservation records. The hidden shipment logs disguised as restoration inventories. Professor Benson and Yi-jun's mother hadn't just uncovered corruption. They hid evidence inside the collections themselves, and suddenly, everything made sense. An hour later, Yi-jun walked into Myra Group headquarters looking like a different man, not colder, more dangerous. The boardroom fell silent the moment he entered. His father stood near the windows, already waiting, and his aunt sat calmly beside the executives, elegant as ever, like she hadn't possibly ordered someone killed. Yi-jun placed the evidence files onto the table without a word. The room shifted immediately. His aunt's expression barely changed. Impressive. Interesting timing, she said softly. Yi-jun looked directly at her. You had my mother killed. A few executives inhaled sharply. No one moved. His aunt tilted her head slightly. You're emotional. You tried to kill Sophia. Still calm, still composed. Careful, she said quietly. Accusations without proof destroy families. Yi-jun's jaw tightened. Then he opened the final file slowly. Shipping manifests, private account transfers, auction records, everything. The silence afterward felt suffocating. For the first time, his aunt's expression cracked. Just slightly. But enough. His father looked physically ill now while flipping through the documents. You told me those divisions were clean. The woman finally stood slowly, and suddenly the elegance disappeared. What remained underneath was colder. Sharper. You weak men, she said softly. The room froze. I built this company while all of you played chairman. Nobody spoke. Her eyes moved toward Yi-jun. Your mother was naive, then colder. And that woman in the hospital made you weak exactly the same way. Yi-jun's expression darkened instantly. No, he said quietly. She made me human. For the first time, his aunt looked genuinely unsettled. Not by the evidence, by him. Because he wasn't protecting the company anymore. He was protecting Sophia. And that changed everything. Hours later, news exploded across Korea. Myra executive linked to international trafficking investigation. Arrest warrant issued. The media frenzy became absolute chaos, but none of it mattered to Yi-jun anymore. because that night he returned to the hospital carrying no security team, no assistants, no public mask, just himself. Sophia looked up as he entered quietly. "You look terrible," she said softly. That actually made him laugh once. A real laugh this time, small, tired, human. "I miss that. What, you insulting me?" Sophia smiled faintly despite herself. Then the silence returned again. Different this time, warmer. Yi-jun walked closer slowly. "The prosecutors have everything." Sophia searched his face carefully. "And your family? My aunt was arrested. And your father?" Yi-jun looked away briefly. He knew enough to stay silent. Sophia nodded slowly. Sometimes silence caused as much damage as cruelty. Yi-jun sat beside her bed carefully. Then, after a long pause, he spoke quietly. "You were right." Sophia frowned slightly. "About what?" "I stopped seeing where the investigation ended and where you began." Her chest tightened softly. Yi-jun looked down at his hands. "I think I knew I was in trouble the night you called my apartment depressing." That surprised a laugh out of her. "You remember that?" "I remember everything you say to me." The honesty in his voice made the room suddenly feel too small, too intimate. Sophia looked at him carefully. This man terrified boardrooms, controlled billion-dollar corporations, made politicians nervous. And somehow he looked more vulnerable now than he had at any point since they met. Yi-jun reached into his coat pocket again. Sophia immediately sighed. "If that's a ring, I'm leaving this hospital." That earned another quiet laugh from him. No ring. Instead, he held out his mother's letter. Sophia looked confused. Yi-jun's voice lowered slightly. "My mother spent her final days surrounded by people who valued power more than love." He swallowed once. "I don't want to become that kind of man." Sophia stayed quiet. Then Yi-jun looked directly into her eyes. No cameras. No performance. No billionaire mask. Just truth. "People will keep talking about our age difference." Sophia gave a tired smile. "They already do. They'll say you changed my life." She looked at him carefully. "Did I?" Yi-jun nodded slowly. "Yes." There was silence, then softer. "You taught me being feared isn't the same thing as being loved." Sophia's eyes lowered briefly. Emotion moved quietly across her face now. Not dramatic, real. Yi-jun took a breath, then finally asked the one thing that genuinely frightened him. "Will you stay?" The silence afterward felt fragile. Sophia looked out the hospital window at Seoul glowing quietly in the distance. This city had hurt her, humiliated her, almost killed her, and somehow it had also given her something unexpected. Someone unexpected. She looked back at him slowly, then reached for his hand first this time, and Yi-jun immediately closed his fingers around hers carefully, like he understood exactly how precious the moment was. 1 year later, the same ballroom that once mocked Sophia Addison stood completely silent as Kim Yi-jun walked onto the stage beside her. But tonight felt different. No whispers, no laughter, no scandal, only attention, respectful attention. Sophia stood beside him in an elegant gown, calm as ever, while cameras flashed across the room. The International Cultural Foundation she now directed had just recovered hundreds of stolen artifacts. And Yi-jun, after restructuring Myray Group completely, had become known less as the cold billionaire heir, and more as the man who destroyed his own family's corruption publicly. A reporter raised her hand carefully. "Director Kim, after everything that happened, do you still believe age does not matter?" The room waited quietly. Yi-jun looked toward Sophia beside him, really looked at her, then smiled softly. "No," he said. The audience shifted slightly. Then he continued. "Age matters." Sophia raised an eyebrow slightly, and for the first time ever, the powerful CEO looked completely unafraid to love someone openly. "Age gave her the strength to survive things that would have destroyed most people," he said. The ballroom fell silent. Yi-jun reached for Sophia's hand naturally, comfortably, like he never wanted to hide it again. Then he said quietly, "She arrived in my life exactly when I needed saving." Sophia looked at him for a long moment, then finally smiled. And this time, when the cameras flashed around them, neither of them looked away. "Before you go, tell me honestly, when Yi-jun walked across that ballroom and chose Sophia in front of everyone, would you have had the courage to stand beside him? Or would the pressure have been too much?" Drop your answer in the comments below because I read them all. And if you love this emotional story of love, healing, betrayal, and second chances, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. There are more unforgettable stories waiting for you right here on the channel. See you in the next one.